Welcome to another YouTube guitar lesson. My name is Predrag Simovic and welcome to my channel, Predrag Simovic Music. Today we are going to discuss style of John Coltrane. John Coltrane is and was one of the most influential people that basically made impact on jazz music. His saxophone playing, compositions, melodies, rhythm changed the scope and direction that jazz music was heading. Just like Charlie Parker was the king of bebop with Dizzy Gillespie, John Coltrane was actually a father of modern jazz, and his album Giant Steps, which this composition and licks come from, was the turning point for all the modern musicians. What's so special about Giant Steps? Well, first of all, it's a composition that's based around 3 keys, all major third apart, and it uses series of 2-5-1s as well as dominant chord setting up into the new tonic. So it starts like B major, Bmaj7, uses dominant chord D7 to enter G major, which is down a major third, right? Then it uses B flat 7, dominant chord, entering E flat major 7, which is again down a major third from G, etc., etc. Second part of composition uses tritone. So from E flat major 7, you're using A minor, D7, G, and then from G you're using tritone again, C sharp minor 7, right? Basically, this composition changed the whole world of jazz and the way people are playing jazz nowadays. If you get a chance to be in New York and in Boston, you will hear the jazz scene in these cities, like when young jazz musicians or experienced jazz musicians are playing, their aim and goal in jam sessions and when they're performing is basically to sound like Coltrane in those tritonic, we say tritonic changes because it's using 3 tonics, 3 different keys, right? So you will often hear guys that are improvising over one single chord to basically run these changes through it, right? So that's the way that modern jazz started. It started from Coltrane. He recorded this in 1959, album was released in 1960, and 62 years later we still have musicians in Boston and New York studying his music and trying to sound like him over the changes, So impact of John Coltrane is unbelievable. It's something that we owe John Coltrane a lot, and not just John Coltrane, but yeah, there's a lot of guys that did, and girls that did amazing things for jazz music in general. And today, in today's lesson, I'm going to cover 4 licks over 2-5-1 from Giant Steps. And I hope you're going to enjoy this lesson. I'm going to break each lick down and show you how to practice and what to take from this. Just one more thing to mention about John Coltrane, because he is in the top 3 of my influences, Michael Brecker being the top 1, and Coltrane and Parker being second and third place, trading places. I'm going to cover a lot of lessons in the style of John Coltrane. So there will be a lot of compositional analysis, licks, rhythmic patterns, like what's happening, how was he improvising with melodic and harmonic materials. So this is not the only lesson that you guys are going to watch and learn from, okay? So let's get going to lick number 1. Okay, here we go, lick number 1. The first 2-5-1 that's selected for this lick is F minor 7, B flat 7, or B flat dominant 7, and then E flat major 7. It's 2-5-1 in E flat major, right? The lick that John Coltrane does is actually B flat bebop scale. Bebop scale is a 8-note scale, and when it comes to dominant scale, it basically uses a major 7th. It's like playing Mixolydian mode, which is the 7th mode of, which is the 5th mode of major scale, and you have the raised 7th as well, which is a major 7th. So why is this done? Simply put, because we want, when we are playing bebop and jazz in general, we want the chord tones to be on downbeat. And when you listen bebop music, if you play a 7-note scale, which is a major scale, minor scale mode, you have a problem. Every time the 8th note you play, you're now moving the chord tones, right? So what they did, Charlie Parker, John Coltrane and other guys, they basically put a chromatic note in there, and now everything is reversed. I mean, everything is starting again, you know. So here, if we play B flat Mixolydian scale, which is basically 2/5 of E flat major, and some classes at Berkeley, for example, Ed Tomassi, shout out to Ed, one of the best jazz educators I learned from while at Berkeley. He basically treats everything as, you know, bebop, Mixolydian bebop. So if this is B flat, you're playing Mixolydian mode, which is E flat major scale, starting from B flat to B flat, and then you're just putting a natural in there. So this is how it sounds. And if you play 8 notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then again you're at 1, up an octave. Right? So this scale is used by John Coltrane, and he did this line, following line. It's basically just coming down the scale, right? B flat Bob scale. And now you have a leap, like a classical embellishment and targeting the major third here of E flat, right? So if we count, this is going to be obviously F-7 over this, right? You're hearing it, B flat here, again, approach pattern. So you can use fingering, by the way, starting from 4th finger, or use 3rd finger and then like use the 1st finger here, A flat to G. So the whole line goes like this, slowly. And the chords are, again, if you need notation for this, just email me predragsimovic@gmail.com and I will send you this lick transcribed, yeah, along with 3 other licks. And here's a lick again. Now, slow down. Okay. E flat major 7 is twice as long when it comes to harmonic rhythm than F-7 and B flat 7, right? That's why you hear, for example, the first notes is like F-7, right? And then B flat 7 is, and now starts E flat major 7. So basically, what can you now do with this lick? Well, you have to analyze the melodic functions over chords. It starts from B flat over F-7. It's a tension 11, right? So now if you want to transpose that lick, which I strongly suggest you do, you have to think about what is the minor chord and then find the perfect 4th or 11th and start this lick. We as guitar players have it easier way somewhat because you can use identical fingerings, right? If I'm here using F-7, B flat 7, E flat, I'm playing this fingering. Now I can close my eyes, go 2 frets up, and now I'm transposed everything up a whole step. Right? You hear how that sounds. It's so easy. Piano players, saxophone, trumpet players, like they have it really difficult, but for guitar players this is quite easy, right? You hear it, you can move it. You hear like whatever you want to move. Now, the way you want to break out of these bad habits, just using one fingering, is you obviously want to practice different string sets, different octaves, and different combinations of, you know, how to get this sound. So for example, you might want to start on 2nd string instead of 1st string, and now that lick is going to be totally different. See it, like fingering wise, it's not the same like this one. And by the way, the sound, because each string has a different sound and feel, when you play it on these string sets and here, it's going to be totally different. Basically, when you're using lower string sets, it's going to be more warm tone, right? So when you play here, you hear it. Here is going to be a little bit more harsh, a little bit more spiky, a little bit more treble sounding, right? So that's something to think about, right? Okay, that basically concludes lick number 1. If you have any questions about it, let me know. This was just a bebop scale and using some approach patterns to, from B flat to A to target G, and here we have approach pattern. Okay, let's get to second lick. Welcome back. Second lick is over Am7, D7, and Gmaj7. Or when I played the chords in intro, you guys saw this voicing. So, what's happening with this lick? We are playing A minor arpeggio. This is typical Charlie Parker bebop lick, actually, that John Coltrane plays. And this is one of the reasons why I picked it, because in the previous lessons you guys were watching and you reacted well positively to the Charlie Parker style. So this is just continuation of that, right? This second lick is Charlie Parker all over it. So let's break it down. A minor arpeggio starting from E, the 5th. You're going down, descending. 1 and 2 and, right? If you're counting 8 notes. Now this is the approach pattern part, right? You're using G, the 7th, F, which is chromatic approach to F sharp, because you're like approaching the 3rd of D7. And then Charlie Parker, remember the flat 9 we talked about in the last lesson? That's what's happening there. And this alone, this 2-5, is fantastic lick to learn, right? It starts from a perfect 5th, and you can just practice it any octave, any position, right? And then you can resolve it major or minor, finish it your own way, right? So major or minor. Whatever happens after, right? So here's the whole lick, slow down. Fingering wise, you can play around and find your fingering that suits for you. What I'm doing here is using first finger, rolling it from B to G string, and then using 4th and 3rd finger for notes A and E. You can also use 3rd finger to roll here. And now what you need to do is move down a position, like 2 frets, in order to do this. And I'm using 3rd, 1st finger, and then here 2nd and 3rd finger. And now about the G major sound, G major 7, Coltrane uses here something that we will discuss in future lessons more in depth. It's called basically tetrachord soloing. It's 4 note groupings of trying to describe a given chord or harmony. He usually used for major 1, 2, 3, 5, or 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Here you have 5, 4, listen to this one. So when he goes, this is 5, 4, 3, 2, and now you have this 1, 2, 3, 5. If I just play that isolated and you don't think about jazz context, you have a lot of this happening in classical music. These are just sequences that are describing a given chord, right? And you can take this through the scale. You don't have to play what Coltrane did. You can just take one sequence, whatever fingering you want to use, or you want to go. Etc., etc., right? So the idea from these lines is to break them down, listen to the melodic material, and analyze it over harmony, and then transpose it. Use it in your own vocabulary. So this is typical Charlie Parker lick that Coltrane also used because they are from the same era. You know, they both play bebop music. Coltrane went, like I said, in his compositions further when it comes to like modern jazz. So Coltrane still, when you listen to his music, there is a lot of bop there, and this is one of the proofs. In giant steps, you hear this lick. You can speed it up. And it's it's flat 9, right? Okay, again, take this in different string sets. You can practice it only on 2 strings if you really want to get like work on your guitar playing like a piano player, or even on 1 string to try to play this as little string as possible, 1 position only, right? If I play this in 1 position, fingering is going to be totally different than when I switch positions. You see this? Now I have to like stretch here, those 5 frets. And then here, I'm not moving my hand, I'm staying here. But the lick sounds totally different when you play it there versus the way I showed you. Picking wise, left hand wise, sound wise, it's going to be different because you're using different sets of strings. Your job as a musician and guitar player is to, especially as a guitar player, because while we can do you know, positional playing, unlike piano players, we have a curse that we have too many places on the guitar neck to play the same thing, yeah? But the beautiful thing about that is in all these different places you get a different sound, different feel of the line. Piano player, when they're playing these notes, they only have 1 place on piano how to play this. They cannot get a different sound out of this. They have to use like electronic keyboard effects for that. We on guitar, this line sounds one way there, another way here. You hear it? Like it's much more mellow sounding. Totally different sound. It's like, yeah, it's the right notes, the right pitches, everything is there, but sound-wise, feel-wise, it's different. So my suggestion, number 1 suggestion, is always practice with, you know, different position, different fingering, and of course transpose. Don't just learn this lick in 2-5-1 in G major. Learn it in at least 3 keys, or 4 if possible. And then when you're practicing over a backing track, you basically want to use original lick and then edit it, make it your own, make it part of your vocabulary, right? Okay, that's everything for lick number 2. Let's get to lick number 3. Okay, we're back, and lick number 3 goes like this. Right? This F note is actually start of the next lick. So this is happening over C sharp minor 7. It's like a descending scale run, and it uses tension 9, root, minor 7th, which is a chord tone, and then a major 6th, which is like a Dorian sound, but also a voice leading for the 3rd into a 3rd of dominant 7 chord. So now what's interesting here is that Coltrane breaks up rhythmic pattern. Before, when you were listening to the whole lick, when you connect it, it's all straight 8 notes, right? And here you hear ta 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 ta. There is a break there, like a 8 note break. So, and then this is the last lick, right, in the series. So what's happening here? Tension 9, root, flat 7, so basically D sharp, C sharp, B and A sharp. And now Coltrane is using the approach patterns and you know, tetrachord soloing and all this stuff that I was discussing in the previous lick that we are going to cover in future videos. And it's basically over you know, F sharp 7, he's using 1, 2, 3, yeah? It basically describes the chord, root, a 9th, and a chord tone 3rd. So you can like finish the lick any way you want. So if we went it just continues the line 1, 2, 3, and now here you get the B flat, the B major 7 sound. 1, 2, 3, 5, tetrachord solo in Coltrane style, which Giant Steps, by the way, is known for. This is where it all started for jazz guys. Giant Steps and describing chords with 1, 2, 3, 5 kind of a thing, or 1 flat, 1, 2 flat 3, 5, or 1 3, 4, 5, and things like that. Yeah. So 1, 2, 3, 5, describing this chord, beautiful, right? And now you get the chromaticism from major 7. Just describing like a major 7 sound, right? And again, this is a bebop scale. If you think about it, it's a bebop scale. What's happening there? And now the last lick is starting, right? So this whole lick up to this point, I'll start from the beginning, right? Big lick 1. When you speed it up a little bit, when you slow it down even more, you go. That's the last one. Okay, so again, you practice this in different positions, different fingerings, different keys, different tempos, and take this lick, learn from it. It's using tetrachord soloing, it has chromaticism, right? Right? It's a nice major 7 sound, ending on the 5th, right? So that's how you transpose it. Right? Using the same string sets. It's so easy to move around guitar, right? What you want to do though is change string set. So if you're doing an A major 7, right? And now it's the same lick, but not played this way, right? Okay, let's go to the final lick now. Welcome to the final lick, and the final lick goes over F minor 7, B flat dominant 7, and E flat major 7, and sounds following. Starts on F note, which is the root of F minor 7, and then you get this, which is basically describing B flat 7 chord, right? And it's using flat 7 or a minor 7th, 6th or a 13th tension, 5th chord tone, and 3rd a chord tone. And again, what Coltrane does here is like approach pattern stuff. F and D are targeting E flat, which is the root of E flat major 7 chord. And here, if you slow down recording to a point of 40%, you'll hear that he plays a ghost note here. This G note, 1, 2, 3, 5 in E flat, is a ghost note, G. It's such soft, like G note. The lick essentially should be here. 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 5, or 1, 5, or whatever you want to treat it, right? But actually, in the real speed, your ear picks up this. So, now, about this line, it's not as difficult as the others, but it's cool that it uses this open sounds, like it uses a major 2nd here, then a perfect 4th, and then you have another perfect 4th jump, and back, right? This is pretty cool. It's very McCoy-Tyner Joey Calderazzo sounding on piano, you know, when you hear those guys like soloing with fourths and fifths and using modern jazz sound. On guitar, this also sounds great. So what I would do, for example, from this lick, obviously you can take this. It's nice resolution, you know, 251 into 1. But what I really like about this fourth line is, and you can take this and sequence it and practice on different string sets. Again, remember the intervals, the melodic functions with the chords, right? This starts on the root of the chord. So if you want to do it in C major, and let's say you take a C on the 6th string, then you take a whole step, which is the 9th or the 2nd, 4th, and another 4th to the root. So you get, now you can use the fingering here with like frangambale, like finger rolling, sweep picking style, right? So the whole line is following. Chords are F-7 flat, F-7, B flat 7, E flat major 7. Now we are using tritone to modulate, again 251, or here, then again tritone, that's 4 lines from Giant Steps, John Coltrane. Okay, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed all the content in this lesson. John Coltrane is and was incredible, and even to nowadays this Giant Steps tune, like I said, is used at Berklee College of Music, Manhattan School of Music. It's used in New England Conservatory. When you go to jam sessions in Boston and New York, you hear people constantly trying to sound like Coltrane over Giant Steps, over regular 251 changes. Okay, so in future lessons I'm going to talk about how to apply Coltrane changes over basic changes, so you can sound like guys in Boston and New York. I hope you're going to appreciate these lines and tricks and how to basically make your sound more modern. But from today's lesson, your goal should be learn the lines as they are, listen to the Giant Steps by John Coltrane, obviously, get a slow downer on your computer or your Android phone or iPhone, any phone you're using. It has an app where you can slow down, listen to the clearly melodic content, because this is played, if I'm not mistaken, around 320 BPM, which is 16 notes at 160, right? So you can definitely use a slow downer and practice different tempos. So again, your technique is going to improve playing this. You want to practice minimum in 3 different tempos. You're going to take a slow tempo, medium, and up tempo. And those tempos, the difference should be minimum between them by 60 BPM. So if you're starting at 60 BPM, practicing, let's say 8 notes, your next goal is at 120 to play 8 notes, and then at 180, right? Now, if 60 BPM is, you get it, like it's no problem for you, the whole line, now you keep moving the spectre, and now you start at 90, for example, and then you do 90, 150, and 210, right? You get what I'm saying? So you want to practice 3 different speeds. You want to practice different fingerings. You want to practice different positions. You want to practice different keys. And finally, what you want to do is apply this in real musical context. So you're going to use a loop pedal or a recording software or a backing track of any sort, and you're just going to record 251 chord progression, and you're going to practice these lines. Your ultimate goal should be to know these 4 lines in all 12 keys, but my assignment to you is to know them in at least 4 keys, right? And then keep building your own vocabulary from these lines. That's what it's all about, right? When people hear you play, they're gonna say, oh, I like this line, it reminds me of something. They're not gonna know this is John Coltrane Giant Steps unless they're like hardcore jazz fans or musicians who listen to this like billion times, right, in their lifetime. But they're going to recognize something that's like jazz foundation. And this is your goal as a musician. You want to study the greats, you want to learn from tradition, but you also want to keep your original voice in music, right? Which is really, really hard. If you think about like how many amazing players there were and are, being original is like a really vague term, and a lot of things get lost in the way. So you always have to think, how does this work in your style of playing, in your music? Do I really need to do constant 8 notes? Can I just break down this lick and use just some patterns that I like? Maybe you like this one, you know, and you're going to apply different rhythm to that. It's not going to be 8 notes. It's going to be or, right? Like whether it's triplet, broken, or syncopated or whatever, you know. That's your goal. You want to make this part of you and who you are. I really hope you enjoyed this lesson, and in the future lessons I'm going to continue doing Coltrane material, as well as Michael Brecker and Charlie Parker. They're the top 3 of my favorites. I will also cover Chick Corea. I'm going to talk about some Mick Goodrick stuff as well, because I started with him from my first semester at Berkeley, and he is definitely one of my biggest influences when it comes to my guitar playing and music in general, right? So I'm going to cover what kind of things I learned from Mick, and what you can take from my experience starting with Mick Goodrick, and how to apply it in your own guitar and music journey. This was Predrag Simovic for Predrag Simovic Music YouTube channel. I hope you enjoyed. Like, share, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you in another video.